Okay, so we're going to tackle this nice little algebra problem here. And the problem is the average of x, 2x, and x plus 1 is 7. Okay, so we have three numbers here, x, 2x, and x plus 1. Of course, those are variable expressions, but we know that the average of these three terms or these three numbers is 7. And we're asked to find out what are the numbers. Okay, so x, 2x, and x plus 1 represent actual numbers, but we know when we take the average of these three numbers, it is 7. We want to figure out what the numbers are. So we're going to tackle this problem, and hopefully, you feel up to the task and say, well, I think I could do this on my own. And really, that's the whole idea, to make the most of, any educational video or lesson. If you think you can do it, you should pause the video and try to do it, or at least think about, the things that you know and don't know about this problem. Of course, I'm going to solve it completely, and we're going to get into this in just one second. And this is certainly a classic type of algebra word problem that you definitely want to know how to solve. So, of course, we're going to have lots of fun because algebra is absolute great fun. But in reality, you definitely need to know how to solve this type of problem. And we're going to tackle this in just one second. But first, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John. I'm the founder of TabletClass Math. I'm also a middle and high school math teacher, and over several years, I've constructed what I like to believe is one of the best online math help programs there is. Of course, I'll let you be the judge of that. If you're interested, you can find a link to my math help program in the description of this video. So if you need to take a full online math course, you could take one of mine, or if you're in a course right now, you can use one of my courses as a supplement. That works really, really well. So if you're struggling in your current course and you need another way of looking at things or understanding the material, then my program can help you out. So I go over basically the most common problems you're going to face in middle and high school mathematics and even basic college level mathematics. Literally solve thousands of problems, full comprehensive lessons, etc., etc., etc. Again, if you're interested, you can find a link to my Math Help program and all my courses by following the link in the description of this video. Now, if you are a math student, I must stress the importance of taking notes. This is kind of like my golden rule of math over decades of teaching mathematics. I've just seen this time and time again, and that is note taking. Okay, those students who take the best notes almost always have the best grades, and the reverse is true. Those students who don't take notes, take sloppy notes, or maybe just don't feel like it's important to take notes at all because they got their best friend in the back of the classroom that is a way better note taker than they are, and it's more important for you to be checking out your cell phone and social media, etc., etc. So I'm not knocking you because it's so easy to get distracted these days. And of course, back in the good old days when I was a student, I was doing all that kind of good stuff. But you pay a price. Okay, you're going to pay a price for not being actively engaged in writing down what the teacher is telling you to write down. Okay, you must take great notes, not good notes, great notes. That's like the foundation to doing well in mathematics. But if you're not there yet, okay, you could start working towards taking better notes. So in the meantime, I actually have detailed comprehensive notes that you can get. Those are going to include pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and trigonometry. You can find links to those notes in the description of this video. Okay, so let's get into this problem. So what are we going to need to know? Well, you need to know what the average is. Okay, we're going to review that basic concept. Hopefully most of you out there remember how to calculate the average given a few numbers. And then we're going to have to pull together and create an algebraic equation and then solve it. And then we're going to check to see that in fact that we did this correct. So that's going to be basically the skills that we're going to need for this particular problem. We're going to have a basic understanding of the average. Okay, another word for that, a fancier word for that, is the mean. Okay, and we need to know how to solve basic equations. All right, so let's just go down here real quick and review the average. Okay, so if I have, let's say I have three numbers, let's say 2, 5, and 1. Okay, how do you calculate the average of those numbers? Well, if you recall correctly, to calculate the average, we add up how many numbers we have. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3 numbers, so we're going to add these up. They don't have to be in order. Sometimes it's nice to write them in order, but we don't have to have them in order. So 2 plus 5 plus 1, and then we're going to divide the sum of all these numbers by how many numbers we have. So how many numbers do we have? We have 1, 2, 3 numbers. So we're going to divide the sum by 3. So 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. Okay, so that's 8 over 3, and then we would get a nice little decimal here, 8/3, and that would be our average. Okay, so for the most part, all of you out there are like, oh yes, I remember the average. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do here. We have three numbers, three mystery numbers, okay, and they're algebraic expressions. So we have something plus something else plus something else, but we know that their average is equal to 7. Okay, so anytime you're doing a problem, that involves a concept, let's say like the average or anything else, and you're not sure how to set up an equation, first kind of review the process, okay, mentally, if you need to, or just write it out, how you would do it with numbers, okay, how you would calculate the average, for example, with numbers, because this is going to give us the process or the procedure to set up an equation. Okay, so now let's get to our problem again. So we have three numbers. Of course, we don't know what the numbers are, but they're x, 2x, and x plus 1. Well, we know the average is equal to 7, or the average is 7. That's what the problem told us. Anytime you see this word in mathematics, is, okay, that equates to an equal sign, okay? So the average is 7, or the average is equal to 7. So we have a number plus one number, another number, and our last number here. So we have three different numbers. The average is 7. So how would I calculate the average of these three numbers? Well, I would take the three numbers, I would add them up. So that would be x plus 2x plus x plus 1. Okay, so I'm adding up these three numbers, 1, 2, 3. And if I wanted to find the average of these three numbers, I would divide this by 3. That would be my average, but I know this is the average of these three numbers, but I already know it's going to be equal to 7. Okay, so there is my equation. So anytime you're dealing with a problem in algebra, okay, a couple little things you need to be doing. One, read the problem. That's like an obvious thing, right? You're all over like, yeah, hello, that's the obvious thing. Well, you read the problem, and then what I want you to do again is read the problem again. Okay, you have to read the problem at least 2 times. Okay, and the second time you are reading the problem, you're kind of, the first time you read it, let's just say, you're getting a general feel of the problem. The second time you're reading it, you're honing in on the question mark. What is the question? Okay, and then you have to, the third time you read it and you keep reading it, is you're going to start pulling out the data, the information, and then the next time you read it, you're going to try to build yourself an equation. Okay, so you never just read a problem one time. Okay, you read it quickly, get a feel for what's going on, then narrow down what is the question. And then what information do you have, and then how can you build some sort of mathematical relationship, generally an equation, okay, that you can solve that will, for the last part, answer the question. Okay, and you got to identify the question, because in word problems, it just goes without saying, over the years, so many students solve, or they think they're solving the right problem, or they're answering the question in the problem. They kind of have the right idea, but they're answering the wrong question. They're not answering the right question because they're going too fast and they haven't focused in on what the question is. So I'm kind of going off here on a bit of a tangent on just general word problem solving techniques, but these are things that you must know. Okay. All right. So what we're trying to do here is determine the value of these numbers. Okay. So if I solve for x, x is not going to be the answer. Okay, I need to get three numbers. All right, that's what the question's asking. What are the numbers that these guys represent? So here is my setup. Now I need to go ahead and solve this equation. So if you think you can solve it, I would suggest you pause the video and see what you can do here. All right, let's get into solving this equation. So I have x, 2x, and x plus 1. So I have 3x, 4x. This is going to be 4x plus 1 in my numerator over 3 is equal to 7. Now, because you've been watching my videos on solving equations in my algebra, pre-algebra playlist, you can see that this is right here a nice opportunity for us to set up a proportion, or to think of this equation as a proportion. So anytime you have one fraction, okay, one fraction equaling to another fraction, not two fractions, okay, specifically one fraction equal to another fraction, this is a proportion by definition. So like x over 3 equals 5/8, something like that, okay? We have one fraction equal to another fraction. When you can identify that in algebra, it's always good to think of these equations as proportions, because you can use something called the cross product. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, check out some of my videos on proportions. But this is a great way to tackle these problems. So here I have one side of this equation is a fraction. Okay, now just because the numerator is kind of, 4x plus 1 doesn't make a difference. There's just one fraction bar, but over here you're saying, well, that's not a fraction. 7's not a fraction. No, just relax. 7 is in fact a fraction. If I want it to be a fraction, I just put it over 1. Okay, so 7 is the same thing as 7 divided by 1, which of course is 7. So anytime you want to see a number expressed as a fraction, just put it over 1. Okay, so now I have one fraction equal to another fraction. This is a beautiful thing in algebra, because I can just say, you know what, I'm going to use the cross product, which is one of the nicest things to use when you're solving these basic equations. So that means I can multiply crosswise. Okay, so now one thing here that you can easily find yourself making an error. Now this denominator down here is 1. Okay, this numerator is 4x plus 1. Anytime you have a sum or difference in algebra, get in the habit of putting it in grouping symbols. Okay, it'll prevent you from making mistakes. Just believe me, push the I believe button here. Let's put the little button here. I believe. It's a little button you push. Just push it. Boom. Have faith in what I'm telling you. Anytime there's a sum or difference, put grouping symbols around it. It will help you out later down the line, not making any errors with the distributive property. But in this case, it's going to be pretty easy. So we have 1 times 4x plus 1 is going to be 4x plus 1. Okay, I'm multiplying across this way. And then 7 times 3 is, of course, 21. All right, so at this point, we have a nice, beautiful little equation here we could solve. 4x plus 1 equals 21. Now, if you're struggling with any of this, okay, don't get, sad about it. Okay, just recognize what you don't know. If you're like, oh, I'm lost here, that's just feedback for you to go back and review. Okay, maybe you need to review equations, proportions, whatever the case is. Use this problem as feedback. Okay, but if you're with me so far, then, let's keep going with this problem. So we're going to solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides of the equation. I get 4x is equal to 20. Now to solve for x, I got to divide both sides of the equation by 4. So I get x is equal to 5. Now, a lot of students, again, they'll be in a rush. They'll be like, yay, I got the answer. Here it is, Mr. Teacher. Can I go? Can I, finish up with math for today? I'm like, no, you didn't answer the question, right? That's just x is equal to 5. We have to answer the question, right? What is the question? The question is, what are the numbers, okay? Such that the average is 7, but we have to follow this pattern here, okay? So let's go ahead and erase this, and now let's plug in 5 for x and get these numbers. So our first number is obviously going to be 5, all right, so it's x. And then our second number is going to be 2 times x, or 2 times 5. So our second number is 10, okay? And then our last number is going to be x plus 1. Of course, x is 5, so this is 5 plus 1, or 6. Okay, so those are our 3 numbers. And let's just check here real quick that the average is, in fact, 7. All right, so we have 5, 10, and 6. So 5 plus 10 plus 6. And if we divide that by 3, what do we get? So 5 plus 10 plus 6. This is going to be 21. 21 divided by 3 is in fact 7. So we did it. Let's give ourselves a happy face, a few stars, and a 100% for good order because we did a nice job tackling this problem. Okay, again, when it comes to solving word problems in mathematics, you have to read the question multiple times, okay? Don't try to figure it out. Don't be like, oh, I could just do this real quick one time. Believe me, math teachers like to try to trip up students who don't concentrate or focus, right? And there's always some sort of, typical twist in some of these problems where they're like, hey, listen, read the problem, read it carefully, focus in on what the question is, and then kind of go from there, all right? And it's important to show all your work because if you had this kind of question on a test or a quiz, your teacher's going to look at it and they're going to, when they give you a grade, even if you don't get it right, if you got the setup correct, they can give you partial credit, okay? For me, I would, if you didn't get this exact thing absolutely right, but you had the right idea and you were able to kind of set up the equation properly and you made some little arithmetic mistake, I would be like, okay, hey, listen, you did a good job, but you got to improve on this, okay? But if you don't show any work, right, then I don't know what you really know or don't know. It's the same thing with taking notes, okay? If you don't take any notes, you don't know what you're learning or remember or etc., right? So a lot of these things I stress to you comes from the school of hard knocks, all right? Being a student myself, but just spending years and years and years and years and years teaching this stuff and seeing the same mistakes over and over and over again and seeing what works over and over and over again. Okay, so if you're watching this video, you're clearly interested in doing well in math, and you can absolutely do fantastic in math, and hopefully this video helped you along the way. So if you like this video, please help me along the way by smashing that like button. And if you're new to my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing. Been on YouTube for a long time. It's a great platform. For me personally, I'm obsessed with teaching mathematics, so I could put all my stuff out there. I'm posting new stuff all the time. I have hundreds and hundreds of videos right now, basic to advanced math, on my channel, organized in various playlists. But if you want my best math help, just follow those links in the description of this video. But with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.